Space had been burning for a century, and Earth had watched it all from the safety of the sidelines. At first, it had seemed so far away, distant flashes caught by orbital telescopes, like thunderstorms seen over a far horizon. Humanity had only just spread to Mars and the Jovian moons when the first transmissions were intercepted, distorted alien voices speaking in languages no one could decipher, followed by screams, then silence. World governments met. They argued. But for once, the leaders of a fractured planet agreed on something. Humanity will not interfere, the United Terran Council declared. We are too young, too few, too fragile. Let the galaxy fight its own wars. So they watched. Listening posts were built on the Moon, Mars, Titan. Deep space arrays were erected in orbit around Pluto. Their sole purpose, to eavesdrop on the war raging across the stars. Every month brought new reports, planets scoured clean by bombardment, refugee fleets fleeing into the dark, alliances forming and breaking overnight. The galaxy was a storm. And Earth stayed still. Generations grew up under that decision. Children learned of alien conflicts not from first-hand experience, but from redacted intelligence reports and carefully sanitized holos broadcast by Terran News. Soldiers trained for a war that might never come, drilling in orbital combat suits and flying warplanes that never saw combat. And yet, there was always the sense, unspoken but heavy, that this quiet would not last. Commander Rhea Sloan felt it most of all. Standing on the observation deck of Luna Strategic Command, she stared at the blue-white planet hanging below her. Earth looked so peaceful from up here, oceans gleaming in the sun, city lights flickering like fireflies. But Rhea knew the numbers. She had seen the war simulations. If the fighting ever came to Earth's doorstep, their defenses would be tested like never before. And then, one night, the storm finally broke. It started as a sensor anomaly, a single, faint blip at the edge of the Oort cloud. Long-range contact, a technician called out in mission control. Signature, unknown. Big. Rhea leaned forward over the console, her voice sharp. Trajectory? The technician's fingers flew over the holo display. Direct inbound, ma'am. And, it's not transmitting standard IFF. Not any code we know. In an instant, the room changed. Coffee cups were abandoned. Conversations stopped. Every eye turned to the main screen. Then came the signal. A burst of static, followed by a guttural voice, heavily distorted but unmistakably alive. This is Admiral Koro of the Jatek Dominion Fleet, requesting immediate asylum under the Galactic Concord. There was a pause, barely a second, and then the voice dropped lower, urgent. They are coming. If you value your world, prepare your defenses. The transmission cut off. For a heartbeat, silence reigned in mission control. Then alarms blared. Object is decelerating hard, too hard, the technician shouted. It's coming in hot. Through Luna's external cameras, the object appeared, a vast, jagged vessel, its hull scarred and blackened, leaking streams of molten debris as it tore across the void. Entire sections of its superstructure were gone, leaving behind gaping wounds. It wasn't a warship anymore. It was a survivor. Get me visual telemetry, Rhea barked. The image zoomed in, revealing hull markings in alien script, scorched nearly beyond recognition. What weapons it still carried were offline, its engines flickering like a dying candle. Contacting Terran High Command, said an aide. Orders? Do not engage, Rhea said, though the words tasted bitter. Shadow it with fighters. If it so much as twitches toward the planet, we'll make sure it never reaches atmosphere. Minutes later, the alien ship slowed into low orbit, barely. Humanity watched with bated breath. Across every news feed, the image of the dying starship appeared, massive enough to blot out the stars. Crowds gathered in cities around the world, staring up at the night sky, where a new light now crawled slowly above them. It was the first alien vessel ever to come so close to Earth. And it wasn't alone. Multiple signatures, another controller shouted. Hyperlane disturbance detected, 9 incoming jumps. Rhea's stomach dropped. Enemies? We don't know yet, but the energy spike is off the charts, someone's chasing them. On the alien ship, Admiral Koro transmitted again, this time broadcasting on all open frequencies. His voice was ragged but unyielding. This ship carries the last survivors of the Jotek Dominion Task Force, he said. Our pursuers are the Zarin Collective. If they reach you, they will not negotiate. They will not stop. They will burn your world to cinders. The transmission ended, leaving only the faint hum of the command deck. Then the long-range sensors lit up like fireworks. 9 enemy ships. Fast. Hungry. And heading straight for Earth. Rhea's hands clenched the rail until her knuckles turned white. Sound general alert. Wake the planet if you have to. Sirens howled through every orbital station, every defense silo, every listening post from Mars to Europa. Terran fleet assets scrambled from their berths. Pilots who had only ever trained for simulations raced to their fighters. This was no longer someone else's war. The galaxy had found Earth. And for the first time in a century, the choice humanity had clung to so fiercely, the choice to stay out of the conflict, was gone. Rhea stared at the burning alien ship as it drifted above the planet, shielding itself with Earth's gravity well. She could almost feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This is it, she whispered. The storm is here. Somewhere far above, the first enemy jump signature flared. And the war finally came knocking. They came like predators. The first Zarin warship tore out of hyperspace in a flash of blue light, its jagged hull glinting like a shard of obsidian. Then another appeared, and another, until 9 black silhouettes hung in Earth's sky, forming a tightening noose around the planet. The war had arrived. Enemy fleet confirmed, reported Lieutenant Varga, his voice taut. Formation Delta. No attempt at communication. Commander Rhea Sloan stood rigid on the command platform of Luna Strategic Command, her eyes locked on the tactical display. She had seen simulations of this exact scenario 100 times. None of them had ended well. Raise the orbital defense grid, she ordered. Bring every coil gun, every missile battery online. Put the entire fleet on combat alert. Across low orbit, Earth's war infrastructure came alive. Massive defense stations powered up, their weapon ports swiveling toward the enemy. Carrier wings deployed drones and gunships. The sky glittered with contrails as fighters launched in tight, disciplined swarms. And still, Rhea hesitated. They had never fired first before. Humanity's entire doctrine was built on deterrence, not provocation. If she gave the order to fire, there would be no going back. Ma'am, Varga's voice was tight. They're arming weapons. On the screens, the Zarin ships began to glow, power surging through their lattice-like structures. Rhea felt her pulse hammer in her throat. Hold fire, she said, forcing the words out through clenched teeth. Let them make the first. A spear of plasma lashed out from the lead Zarin ship. It struck Admiral Koro's vessel broadside, tearing through its already crippled hull and sending whole sections of it spinning into the void. That was it. Open fire. Rhea roared. The void erupted. Earth's defenses unleashed hell. Rail slugs screamed across space at near-relativistic velocity, ripping through enemy shields with bone-shattering force. Hundreds of missiles arced toward the Zarin ships, each one splitting into dozens of submunitions before impact, turning the darkness into a blooming forest of fire. The first enemy ship disintegrated under the barrage, its hull fragmenting into 1,000 glowing shards. But the Zarin did not scatter. They charged. Rhea's jaw tightened as the enemy fleet split formation, half of them heading straight for the orbital grid while the others dove toward the planet. Cut them off, she barked. Deploy Intercept Wing Theta. On the far side of Earth, 3 squadrons of Terran interceptors launched from a carrier at Lagrange Point 2. Their pilots, barely out of training, swung into formation with a precision that belied their inexperience. "Lock and fire," Captain Juno Varick, squadron leader, said into comms. Space lit up with a swarm of anti-ship torpedoes. 2 of the Zarin ships banked hard to avoid them, but the third took a direct hit amidships and exploded in a silent, blinding flare. Cheers went up in mission control, cut short as a countervolley of plasma fire ripped through one of the defense stations, turning the massive structure into molten slag. "Station Hammerfall is gone," Varga said grimly. "Redistribute firing arcs," Rhea snapped. "Keep them out of atmosphere at all costs." For 6 brutal minutes, the battle was a deadlock. Then the Zarin broke through. A wedge of 3 enemy ships dove hard toward Earth's upper atmosphere, shrugging off missile fire. The temperature readout spiked as they descended toward the Pacific, their weapons glowing white-hot. "Targeting cities," Varga said, horror dawning in his voice. "They're going to burn us," someone whispered. Rhea didn't hesitate this time. "All batteries, maximum overdrive. Bring them down." Every coil gun in orbit fired at once. The night side of Earth lit up with a lattice of white streaks as projectiles cut through the dark. 2 of the 3 descending Zarin vessels were struck, their hulls shattering under the kinetic assault. One exploded in a spectacular blossom of light, the other broke apart and burned up in the upper atmosphere, raining debris over the Pacific like a meteor shower. But the last ship survived the gauntlet. It roared through the clouds like a black dagger, skimming the stratosphere at hypersonic speed. On its tail, Captain Varick's squadron dove after it, afterburners blazing. Missiles locked, Varick gritted. "Take the shot, Juno," Rhea's voice came over the comm. Varick fired. A spread of 6 torpedoes streaked after the Zarin ship, slamming into its engines. The ship shuddered, spiraled, then plummeted. Seconds later, it struck the ocean and detonated, a column of fire erupting so high it was visible from orbit. For a moment, there was silence. Then the remaining Zarin ships began to retreat. "They're falling back," Varga said, disbelief in his voice. Rhea didn't cheer. She didn't even smile. "They're not retreating," she said quietly. "They're regrouping." Her eyes flicked to the tactical map. The Zarin weren't gone. They had merely withdrawn toward the edge of the system, forming up for another jump. "They'll be back," Rhea said, her voice like iron. "And next time, they won't just send 9 ships." On the damaged alien vessel, Admiral Koro's last transmission crackled through the comm network. "Terrans, you held the line. Reinforcements are en route, but the Zarin will not stop until they erase us all. Prepare yourselves." This was only their first strike. Then his signal went dead, his ship finally falling silent as its remaining power systems failed. Humanity had won the battle, but only barely. And now, the entire planet knew. Across Earth, cities that had watched the lights of battle streak across the night sky sat in stunned silence. Families huddled together under emergency alerts. Soldiers walked back into their barracks with haunted eyes. The war was no longer a distant rumor. It had a face now. And it was coming back. Rhea turned to the council feed, where the world's leaders appeared as holograms, their faces pale and drawn. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice low but steady, "our neutrality is over. The Zarin will strike again, and next time, they will bring everything they have." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle like dust over the room. "We either prepare to fight this war, on our terms, or we wait for them to burn us." No one spoke. No one disagreed. The storm door had been broken open. And Earth was stepping through. The world did not sleep after the first battle. Factories that had once built shuttles and mining craft now hammered out warships and kinetic slugs. Civilian transport yards were converted into military shipyards overnight. The news feeds no longer speculated about whether humanity would stay neutral, they broadcast one message on repeat: Earth was going to war. Commander Rhea Sloane hadn't slept either. Not really. She spent her nights in strategic command, staring at maps of the solar system, at projections of Zaran fleet numbers, at casualty reports from the first battle. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the orbital station Hammerfall breaking apart. She heard the screams of pilots as their comms went dead. She remembered Admiral Koro's last words before his ship finally went cold. "Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming." But Koro's reinforcements had not arrived yet. And Rhea was done waiting. 3 weeks after the first battle, Earth's largest fleet in history left orbit. It was a sight that would be remembered for generations. Carriers the size of cities, their armored hulls gleaming. Battleships bristling with coil guns. Swarms of smaller gunships, drones, and interceptors forming up around them like a cloud of steel. At the center of the formation was the Excalibur, the rebuilt alien vessel that had once limped to Earth, now retrofitted with Terran systems. Its hull gleamed with a patchwork of alien and human engineering, its weapon systems pulsing with energy that no human ship had ever carried before. The Vanguard fleet was ready. "Hyperlane coordinates locked," reported Lieutenant Varga. Rhea stood on the command deck of the Terran flagship Resolute, hands clasped behind her back. Her voice was calm but carried a steel edge that silenced the room. "Engage jump." Space twisted. The fleet vanished into the dark. They emerged at the edge of the Zaran staging ground, a dead star system where a brown dwarf's dim light barely touched the wreckage of old battles. And there they were. More than twice the number of ships as before, arrayed in a loose sphere around the hyperlane nexus. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, an armada preparing to strike at Earth again. "They haven't seen us yet," Varga said, almost in disbelief. "They will," Rhea replied. "And when they do, we hit them first." She turned to her comms officer. "Transmit to all ships, fire on my mark." The fleet moved into attack formation. The Resolute's massive rail batteries rotated into position, their barrels glowing as they charged. For a moment, the void was silent, the calm before the storm. Then Rhea gave the order. "Fire." The opening salvo was a thing of terrible beauty. Rail slugs, each the size of a train car, screamed across space at near light speed. Hundreds of missiles blossomed from launch tubes, leaving trails of white fire. Drones swarmed forward, carrying pulse cannons that spat streams of energy into the dark. The first Zaran ships didn't even have time to react before they were torn apart. The enemy fleet scrambled, breaking formation, but it was already too late. The battle had begun. From her command seat, Rhea watched the tactical display explode into chaos. "Enemy carriers are launching strike craft," Varga reported. "Intercept them before they reach the line," Rhea ordered. Terran interceptors dove into the oncoming swarm. The void turned into a dogfight as fighters weaved through plasma fire, dodging, rolling, striking back with swarms of micromissiles. Inside his cockpit, Captain Juno Varick gritted his teeth as alarms screamed. "Fox 3. Target destroyed." His fighter banked hard, narrowly avoiding a beam of plasma that would have vaporized him. He dove straight at the nearest enemy corvette, let loose a spread of rockets, and pulled away just as the ship erupted in a chain of fireballs. The comms were alive with voices, orders, screams, battle cries. "Enemy right flank is collapsing. Vanguard frigate Atlas is hit, losing power. Excalibur's charging main weapon, stand clear." And then the Excalibur fired. Its alien superweapon unleashed a column of violet light that cut through 3 Zaran ships in a single stroke, vaporizing them into glowing wreckage. The shockwave from the blast lit up every sensor in the fleet. Cheers erupted across Terran comms. For the first time, humanity was no longer merely surviving. They were winning. But the Zarin did not go quietly. A massive enemy dreadnought surged forward, dwarfing every other ship in the battle. Its forward batteries glowed bright as miniature suns. "They're targeting the Resolute," Varga said, his voice tight. "Bring all forward shields to maximum," Rhea snapped. "Divert auxiliary power, now." The first plasma volley struck. The Resolute shuddered, entire decks shaking as the shields barely held. "Return fire." Every gun on the flagship roared. The dreadnought staggered under the barrage but kept coming, weapons glowing hotter. "We can't take another hit like that," an officer said. "We won't," Rhea said grimly. "Signal the Excalibur. Prepare for a ramming strike." There was a beat of silence on comms. Then the Excalibur acknowledged. The alien hybrid vessel turned, engines flaring as it accelerated straight toward the Zarin dreadnought. "Excalibur, this is suicide," Varric shouted into comms. "Not suicide," came the reply, the voice of one of Admiral Koro's surviving officers. "A promise kept." The Excalibur slammed into the dreadnought at full burn. The resulting explosion was so bright it turned the battlefield white for several seconds. When the light cleared, both ships were gone, nothing left but a cloud of glowing debris. The Zarin fleet faltered. And Rhea gave the final order. "All ships, press the attack. Leave nothing standing." The Terran fleet surged forward like a tidal wave. One by one, the remaining Zarin ships fell, their wreckage scattering into the void until the last hostile blip winked off the screen. Silence. It was almost deafening after the storm of battle. On the bridge of the Resolute, no one spoke for a long moment. Then Rhea straightened, her voice carrying through every open comm channel. "Transmit to every relay station. To every listening post. To every power in the galaxy." Her next words were recorded, translated into dozens of alien languages, and broadcast across the stars. "Earth did not start this war. But if you bring it to our door, we will finish it." The message echoed through the void. In distant systems, listening posts fell silent. Fleets already on course for Sol turned around. The galaxy had taken its first swing at humanity, and learned what happened when Earth fought back. And somewhere beyond the stars, in the quiet aftermath, Rhea allowed herself a rare, quiet smile. The storm had come. And Earth had answered.